Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome to another live session with the Hype Magazine. I'm your editor-in-chief, Jerry Doby, and today I've got an amazing guest by the name of Jen DeLeon. She is content director for Dash Radio. She's been interviewed, seen her on the red carpets, BET, what else? SkeeTV, Revolt, Complex. This child has been everywhere. I call her a child, not out of disrespect, but I'm old. And she's the young, fresh face of media upcoming, and she's setting a standard for the ones that are going to follow her and work in the industry. I appreciate having you. Thanks for being with us, Jen.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you.
I'm excited to talk to you as well. So from the outside looking in, besides my little intro that I read from your bio, give us the rundown on Jen DeLeon.
So it's so funny because every time somebody asks me, what do you do or what's your story? It's so hard for me to box everything into one. And my story is so long, but also very inspiring at the same time. But long story short, I've been wanting to be on camera since I was a kid. So, I went to school for it. I started in Chicago with a company called HotNewHipHop, and then I interned for NBC, and then I was the first intern for the Chicago Bulls for Bulls TV. But I made my own blog, and I just started doing videos, and I started writing, and then it began to pick up. And then eventually I got hired on by HotNewHipHop, moved to LA. But why I moved to LA is even interesting because I didn't move to LA with this job in place. And how I even got my HotNewHipHop job was a Craigslist ad. And I didn't even know it was for HotNewHipHop.
Really?
So it's like, yeah, it was crazy because I was praying for something to come up in LA so I could move there, but nothing came up. And then finally I basically just said, fuck it. And I went without a job or family, friends in LA. And as soon as I got there, HotNewHipHop offered me a full-time job, but it wasn't until I got there. So even though I was working with them contractor, like just doing interviews, which obviously wasn't going to pay my bills, doing it one at a time, I go by how you have to take risks in order to get those opportunities and those blessings. So I made that leap. And then from there, I just started working with different media companies. And then from doing interviews, it expanded into behind the scenes work. So it's like, I've seen every angle of the music business when it comes to media and content and production. Okay. That was really long. Sorry.
No, it's great. Actually, I want you to be yourself. I want you to feel free to just spit it out the way it comes. One of my celebrity correspondents, Ken G, was in the house with you when you went to the listening session for Algorithm. Oh, okay. With Snoop. Yeah. He's an amazing dude. So I was watching your footage. And what was that room like? That was you've had Snoop a few times actually. So
actually Snoop's one of my favorite artists to work with. So again, everything started with interviews, but then it expanded. So Snoop I interviewed 2013, I would say. But then from there, Snoop and his team brought me on to host Prosper Summit, which is what he does with Adidas every year. And so I did that 2 years in a row. So it's just been nice that I've been able to work with him. And he's just one of the artists that seriously, he will co-sign me. And I love that because at the end of the day, it's Snoop. Like, who's not a fan of Snoop? But as far as for the room and listening to the album, there was about, I would say, maybe 20 of us. He had 2 sessions that night. So that was my first time being in the actual studio. Anytime I got to work with him, it was for like hosting or interviews. So being in the studio and with just different people and listening to that music, like I loved the entire album. I couldn't even pick which one was my favorite. So it felt so good to be in there. And again, it was a small, like 20 of us at most. And so it was a very intimate listening session. Usually when you go to listening parties or sessions, they play maybe like half of the album or maybe like a minute. No, he played that whole damn thing, like from start to finish. So it was really, and Snoop's such a such a people person. Like everybody loves him and gets along with him, that it's like when you're in the room with Snoop, it's as if you're not in the room with Snoop, if that makes sense. Like he's Snoop, but he's so like,
he's just a
like,
real person.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Okay. So I got a chance to listen to the album, and one of my favorites, of course, that Snoop co-signed was I Like My Weed by Jane Hancock. Like it so fits, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is it about? First of all, what was the defining moment in your life that you decided, I am going to actually just be in journalism? Screw it.
Yeah.
That moment that you said, I'm done. This is where I'm going.
That's the thing. Like, I'm not even just saying, I've been wanting to do this literally since I was born. Like, I know it's my purpose and it was my passion. So I have, memories and photos of when I was a kid, and I would have a mic and pretend like I, was talking or having a show. So even in high school, I did our TV apprenticeship class. So I did our morning news all the time. And then I was the teacher's assistant for our TV apprenticeship class. And then I went to school. I went to Columbia College in Chicago for journalism. And like I said, it's like there wasn't a moment that I was like, no, that's it. It was literally instilled in me, and I was born with it. And I'm like, I love talking, and I've had so many different moments in life where I knew I was on the right path. So in the beginning of this, I told you I have a very inspiring story that people wouldn't even believe half the things of how they even came about. And like you just can't point that to anything. And that's how I knew, like, no, this is literally what I'm supposed to be doing. So one of them is, I joked that I wanted to meet Oprah. And it's like, I just was saying, because it's like, she was the one who had the TV show. And I was like, if I could just meet her and get some kind of advice or something. Fast forward, they were looking for, it was just on her website when I was doing research. And in the thing, it says, are you a big texter? It was like a little pop-up ad that like popped up. So I filled it out, not even remembering what I was doing. And then I get a call from the show like 3 months later. Wow. And they said, well, one, it's funny because I was drunk because it was an Iowa State versus Iowa like game. Right. So I get this call, and it's a voicemail because I missed it. And it's like, hey, looking for Jen. This is I
can hear you. Your video blanked out for a second, but
it's because somebody had called. Sorry, I should have put on Do Not Disturb. So then when I called, so the call said, this is Ellie from the Oprah Winfrey Show. And we're looking for Jen because we're interested in having her on the show. And I'm like, what the hell? And again, drunk, where I'm like, I don't like, this is fake. Like, all my friends know I want to meet her. I called them, and they said that they were looking through submissions all summer, and I was one of the last ones they read. And they felt that even in my response, it was me, and it was so relatable, and they wanted me to be on the show. I ended up being on the show. We do this driving simulation thing. And when she did the interview with the 3 people they had do the experiment, after the show, the producer comes up to me and said, Oprah wants to talk to you. And I was in the green room, like, why does she want to talk to me? Wow. So I go out there, and she's like, you did a really great job. You're a natural on camera. I tell her I started a blog and I wanted to be the next her, just the Filipino version. And she's like, Jen, the next me will be you. Just keep doing what you're doing, because someone needs to be that voice. Now, she could have just been saying that, just to be nice and, encourage someone. But at the same time, I'm like, what are the chances that I say, I want to meet Oprah, she calls me out of there, and then like that happens. So that was one of the things. When I went to LA and I was just coming out to visit and do a few interviews, on my way home after an interview, like the label rep at that time asked me, like, what is it you want to do? And I said, I want to have my own show. And he's like, then why are you in Chicago? And then that blew my mind, because I'm like, why am I in Chicago? Mm-hmm. And he's like, if you were in LA and you did this much in Chicago, imagine how much you can do here. So I went home. I was on one of the trains. I prayed about it, and I was like, God, am I supposed to like leave everything and move to? I would never leave Chicago. Like, I was 21 years old at this time. And so I was like, please give me a sign. And you know, like when you ask for a sign, like you don't get it like immediately. Like I got mine immediately. So I got off the train. I was with one of my friends, and there was this homeless lady like coming from the opposite direction, like literally screaming at people. And you know, and you want to avoid someone, you're like, oh, I'm gonna try to cross the street. So I'm like, don't look at her, because a train came and I couldn't cross the street anymore. And of course I looked at her, and when I looked at her, she, in like a gremlin voice, said, follow your passion. And I was like, what the hell just happened? I thought I was crazy. I thought I was just hearing, like I imagined it. But my friend was like, what did that lady just say to you? And then from there, I called my parents when I got back to the hotel, said I'm going to move in the fall, after my brother like goes to college. And then I didn't get hired anywhere, and then all this stuff. And it's like, then I came to LA, and it was the best decision I made. So the reason I keep going is it's because there's just those little signs, and you know, like those confirmations of knowing like that is my purpose, and things like that kept happening that I'm like, well, I'm not even going to try to do anything else. And even when I get discouraged, sometimes I'm like, nope, this is my purpose. This is what I was literally born to do. Like, so I'm just going to keep doing it.
Okay. Well, you're doing a magnificent job. I'm an old head, and I'm amazed at watching you. I like your style. I like the way you.
Thank you.
Obviously, you do some great research, but then you don't over research. You actually just kind of go by a feel and let people tell their stories. I think that's a skill set that can't be taught. It's a natural skill set. So amazing job, man. Shout out to you. And so being a Filipina from Chicago, I didn't know that there was a large Filipino.
There's not. There. Yeah, so there's not. And actually, so I'm from the north suburbs of Chicago, but if I told you my hometown, no, even people in Chicago or around Chicago, they don't know the hometown that I was actually born in. They know the one right 5 minutes away because it's such a small town. So but still, regardless, there's not a lot of Filipinos like anywhere, even where I grew up. Like there was probably only maybe like 5 to 10 Filipinos in my class, like in high school. So yeah, very, very small community.
Okay. And then you come to LA, and there's a massive Filipino community, especially like around Carson. And Long Beach.
There's literally a Filipino town.
Yeah. So tell me about how you felt. Did you feel more at home? What did you discover about yourself as you immersed yourself into the LA community?
So I felt that when I came to the LA community, I stood out. Sorry, I don't know why I keep getting. It's like the one time I use my phone because it's a better camera. All this stuff happens. So I realized when I came here that I had a unique look, because the thing is, even though I'm full Filipino, even Filipinos don't think I'm Filipino. So it's like that I had that where it's like, okay, I'm going to stand out. And yes, I use that to my advantage in a sense where it's like, I know someone's going to remember me, because it's like, it's literally, first of all, I'm 4'11" and a half. And then it's like, you don't know what nationality I am. So it's like, you might not remember my name, but you're going to remember, like, I saw that little person like somewhere at an event. Right. So I learned that it's like, you know, LA has such just the environment and the culture, it's amazing. So it's like coming out here, I realized like I felt like I really belonged here, even though this isn't home to me. I felt like here everyone could relate. I can relate more because, you know, it's normal and it's an everyday thing to work with a artist or a celebrity. Like that's just what it is here. So it's like I felt more at home here. And again, even though I'm from Chicago, even when I go home, it feels kind of weird because I'm like, I feel like I'm not home. Like I have my family and I love my family, but it's like LA just I feel like I was meant to be here. And even though the rent is ridiculously expensive and everything's expensive and the traffic sucks, I'm like, I feel at home, and the weather is great because I do not miss those winters at all and that cold. You know, it would get so windy in Chicago. Right. I would walk from Union Station to my dorm Yeah, I would walk from Union Station to the dorm, and I remember this was so embarrassing, but it would be so windy and so cold that one time I was trying to walk that the wind literally kept blowing me like into the bushes and the trees. And I'm like, it is too cold and too windy and I'm too small for all of this. So I like the weather here. It's much better.
I absolutely love the culture in LA.
Yeah.
I'm not from there either, but the 20 years that I spent there, it felt more like home than anywhere else. You know, I just recently came back to Kansas City because, you know, this is where my wife wants to be. So follow me.
I mean, I definitely say LA is not the place to like settle and probably have a family. Like it's not like whenever I go home, I'm like, this is reality. It's kind of like, you know, LA, it's like, it's not, LA's only LA here, but it's like, as far as like home, family, marriage, kids, yeah, don't do that like here.
Yeah, it's expensive. All of those things that you said.
Hell.
I remember paying like $1,800 a month for a 1-bedroom, you know, apartment that was not in the great. I was in Inglewood, for God's sake, and I'm paying $1,800 in a little row house that is crazy. Then gas prices, of course, were like $8 a gallon.
Yep. It's so high right now.
Yeah. I mean,
like, I don't want to drive anywhere.
So, you know, we all came through this pandemic thing and we're 2 years in. How did you maintain your mental health during that time?
So I maintain my mental health by what I did as far as for media, like for interviews, I changed my approach with interviews and I started Jen's Classroom. So everyone I talked to, it was something that you can learn during the pandemic to inspire people during these times. So one, it was work-wise, that's what I went towards in that direction. So it could help everybody in a way. And two, just really spending time with myself and learning. I watched a lot of, motivational videos, preachings, reading, really just, even though it was a pandemic and we were locked in our homes, like you could still FaceTime and, call people. So I felt like I really got to reconnect with a lot of people because we were all literally stuck at home. So it's like, you couldn't be distracted. You couldn't be busy running around. It was hard, especially because I'm here without, my family here. So I'm like, damn, I really can't do anything. But yeah, just staying, I as far as for mental health, anytime that I feel like I'm in a place, whether it's anxiety or, feeling down or feeling depressed, it's like, I always just go to the inspirational stuff. And then what motivated me in the first place, surrounding myself with the people who make me better and uplift you, and getting rid of people who bring you down, and just surrounding yourself in those good environments.
Okay. I watched some of your clips on Instagram. Yeah. They're pretty inspirational. They meet a lot of people where they are. How did you get such an expansive view and able to deliver that?
As far as for just all the different inspirational things I talk about.
Yeah.
So even though when I was growing up, I'm like, I want to be on camera, have my own TV show. Yes. Part of it was I want to be able to do interviews and get these stories and show these different sides of people and celebrities that people don't get to see. But also, I'm just such a people person, and I love talking to anybody. Literally, you point at someone on the street, I will have a conversation with them, and we will talk for a long time. So what I realized with social media, and even before social media, is a lot of people are afraid to be themselves and be honest with what they're feeling and what they're going through. Especially social media, it's all about only show what's good and so that you can get the likes and the follows, and so you can whatever it is. And I'm like, where is the authenticity? It's like, how can I inspire somebody when they didn't get an opportunity they wanted, or when they were broke, or if they were on unemployment, or if they had to work a job they didn't want to have, if all I'm showing is, here's me in the studio with Snoop, here's me on a red carpet, here's that. I'm like, I wanted to share my story and show people you can do anything you want. You don't have to be born into it. You don't have to have the money to do it. You really just have to motivate yourself. So that's why I'm so transparent about everything. And I'm like, I'm all over the place as far as content, but the thing is, like, that's actually me. Some days I'm inspirational. Some days I'm crabby and I'm gonna bitch about something, but it's like at the end of the day, it's always me, and that's everybody though. So it's like there's probably so many things that people don't know about you that of course you're going to keep private, but I'm sure there's something you could have came across in my content that you're like, oh, I wouldn't think that she would know what that's like because of my career, or what I do or what I look like people would think that. So I am an open book. Like I will share everything and anything, like no matter what.
I think what amazed me the most was in your youth, like I said, I'm an old guy. In your youth, you're so self-aware and aware of the world and some of the nuances and intricacies that go on throughout the entertainment industry, the world, and just being a freaking human being. Yeah. That I'm like, okay, I'm really excited to talk. And I'm really glad that you followed up with the message. I'm like,
and
I would have missed out.
Yeah, like I'm 31. I look like I'm 18. Like I know that. So it's like I have that going for me. So if I'm 50 still on camera, like, nope, I'm 30. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
So I think that my self-awareness and just people always said I was more mature for my age, like ever since I was in high school, but I started working since I was 15. My first job was Dairy Queen and I was getting $6.50 an hour. From there, I worked at Aldo Shoes where I was a manager at 17. So it's like I always excelled in whatever it was that I was pursuing at that time. And I'm so obsessed with becoming the best version of myself. So it's like, I'm brutally honest with myself and I love learning and I love growing. And also not even just for myself, you can learn and grow from other people and even their situations. And I think that's why I like talking to people so much. Cause it's like, we all have our unique experiences and stories that it's like, oh, I would have never thought of it from that way. I'm very, unbiased when it comes to people asking me for advice. It's like at the end of the day, it's your life. No one knows what you went through to get to that point, but I love learning, like, what is it that makes you who you are, and reading a lot of different books on just like psychology and people and where things can come from. Like I'm telling you, like, it's so my every day is really like researching and just learning how to be better. Like I really am obsessed with it. So I could tell you so many things I learned about myself in every single year. And I feel like I did live a past life. I had to have, because there's just because sometimes I have the answers to stuff, or I feel myself naturally talking about something. I'm like, I don't know where that came from, but it's just, it came from my heart. And I'm like, it's working. Somebody needs to hear it. So I think that's where it comes from. And I've been through a lot of, trial and error. And also I moved to LA when I was 22 years old. Right. So I had to also grow up. When you're 21, 22, you think you know everything. You think you're an adult because you can drink and do all this stuff. And then it's not until you're like 30 and you're like, I didn't know shit. So when I look back at moving across the country by myself, it was kind of like I had to raise myself in a way and adapt to being by myself. So I had no choice but to be self-aware and, be in my own head. And it's like, what's the next move? So I think that's where it came from, just throwing myself out there and just figuring it out on my own.
What was your most impactful wake-up moment?
Ooh, my wake-up moment? I would say so there was this app called Live Video. This was 2015. So I don't know if you saw the thing that I posted about Complex, how I was offered a full-time anchor position with them in 2015, but then I went with another opportunity because I thought that was what was best at the time. So that other opportunity was working for this multi-billionaire who at the time they had their Orange County, like the top richest people in Orange County, and he beat Kobe. So like that was fine, but like he was up there, and he wanted to launch this live streaming app where people paid for exclusive content. at the time. So I got brought on by one of my friends that I worked with at Skit TV. So what was funny is at the time that wasn't normal, but look at how the world is today, where it's Patreon, Twitch, YouTube. So it's normal to pay for content now. But back then it was like, you guys like are crazy. Like, what are you talking about? No one's going to do it. Long story short, so we got Lil Wayne as the face for that. So put that together. And then when it launched, the agreement I had at the time was, hey, I'm going to put, you know, my interviews and my on-camera stuff on hold and really focus on this app, because, you know, if this blows up, it's like I was still bringing in talent, but for that, and it felt good because there was somewhat of a check. So it's a, you know, it's a win-win for everybody.
Right.
When the app launched, I dropped a Raekwon interview that I did a year before. I just never dropped it. So the good thing is when I do my interviews, it's evergreen content. So it doesn't matter. Like I can drop it whenever. The bad thing is I don't drop right away and I kind of procrastinate. So that it's like, I'm just sitting on all this content and I'm like, what if, you know, I never uploaded this. What's wrong with me? This Raekwon interview I dropped, and then it gets on Billboard, which I didn't have a Billboard content. They just picked it up, posted it. So I was excited about that. Then it came down to a discussion where my boss talked to my friend that hired me, who, you know, was running the whole thing. And he said, hey, you need to pick between your content and your interviews and what you want to do, or this app and a full-time job. And I chose the content and going after my dreams, which was really hard to do because it's like, security. You know, and yeah, and it was sad because it's like, I won't say like the name, but it's like, I really appreciated the opportunity and the fact that he trusted me with this, but I was sad that we never even had that conversation. Like he had somebody else talk to me about it, but you know, there was communication. So I chose that, went on unemployment, was broke, Ubered for a bit. And then I even did Postmates. And when I was doing Postmates, I was like, wait, what if I had artists with me when I did Postmates? So like, I'm coming up with this idea while I'm driving down the hill after I dropped off this delivery. So I reached out to Postmates on there, and no, actually, I've never talked about this story. I only told it one time when I spoke at a school, this Postmates thing. I went on the Postmates website in the general like help section, and I just put in my idea and they reached out to me. I ended up talking to, it was like their head of marketing. And she was like, oh, this is a great idea. Also, you know, we're just launching. So if you have any talent that would want to do Postmates codes, we'll pay you and the talent for every referral they got. So I was making my money off of me getting artists and people to promote Postmates. And then I was doing the payouts. And that's when I started like my agency at the time, because I'm like, wait, this worked. But it's like, my wake up moment was when I'm like, I chose a check and security over what I knew what I was supposed to do. So I left and I was like, damn, what am I going to do? Unemployment, Uber. I made my own set. And I remember one of the days I had Jeezy come to my set and I Ubered that same night, and no one knows that. And it's like, you know, people were like, oh, aren't you going to be embarrassed if somebody sees you? I'm like, no, like I'm going to be embarrassed if I'm homeless, like, and I don't have a check. And I'm like, this makes it even better. So it's like, and I'm like, I'm going to be embarrassed if I call my parents and say, I'm going home just because I don't feel like getting a regular job, or because people will judge me for, you know, going from being on camera on carpets to Ubering. And I'm like, fuck that. Like I'm always going to do what I need to do. So it's like, I'm always going to find a way to make it happen. So that time was definitely my wake up moment. And like I said, Complex literally offered me a full-time job and the pay was the same, like for both of them. So it was kind of like, ooh, like passion. But at the time, and I thought, I'm like, this is like where I need to go. And I learned so much from those moments. And then it just motivated me to never want to max out my credit cards and be on unemployment ever again. So that was definitely my wake up moment when someone said, you have to pick. And I'm like, well, I'm going to pick myself, like, and what I want to do. And it paid off.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. That's dope.
Yeah, literally no one knows. It's not even when I did it at the school, like I said, I don't drop my content right away. I shared that story in 2019 and I still haven't put that out there. Like, so wow. Yeah, I just told you it, but yeah, I loved it. Like, and Ubering and doing Ubering was fucking crazy. Especially like that was like
scary.
The things I saw and the thing, like, it was just, I'm like, wow, I didn't like not do this. And then that's why I resorted to Postmates, because I was like, oh, what's Postmates? Oh, I don't have to deal with anyone like in the car and I just drop it off. But then look at what came from that. I'm like, I came up with an idea. And then that's when I knew like I can leverage my relationships, like even if it's not for an interview. And that's what I did. So
okay. One of the other things that you've done that is pretty cool to me is Jen's Classroom. Mm-hmm. So I mean, what you had Big Sean, G Herbo, I don't know Lane V, but Tinashe was like the one that got me. I was like, you got Tinashe to come do this? Talk to me about the creation of Jen's Classroom and
so well, and I can even tell you the backstory with Tinashe too. So it's like when I was with HotNewHipHop, Tinashe was one of the first artists that I interviewed. But we just clicked. Like we just clicked. We're the same age. And, you know, even back then, like we would go to like PF Chang's or the movies, like just to like actually hang. So it's like we built an actual friendship and she's such a genuine person. So that's why she did the Classroom, because it's like, you know, we have that, you know, we have that relationship from before. You know, I don't talk and see her often, but it's like, you know, every few times a year, it's like, we'll at least like catch up, but she's great. And it's like, I love her as a person and she's just so genuine. So like I said, we just clicked. So Jen's Classroom started because I was like, wait, we're all sitting at home. I need to do interviews. Like, that's just, you know, that's what I enjoy doing. I'm like, what can I do where I can really inspire people? So I'm like, okay, Instagram Live is here now. And then you can have multiple accounts. So I'm like, let me just reach out to artists and just see if they're down to do it. And they were down. And I'm like, I think it was just because it was, you know, the way I pitched it was, I really want to pick a lesson, because I did life lessons before on my YouTube, but then the Classroom thing, I was like, no, this is an actual, like, I did something at the LA Film School where I did a classroom where I had DJ Ski, Will Zombeck, who's the president of Taylor Gang, DJ Mo Beats, who's Big Sean's DJ, and then Justin Hunt, who at the time, I don't know if he was the editor-in-chief at Hip Hop yet, but it's like I brought different people in the industry to have a class on the do's and don'ts of the music industry. Okay. So I wanted to continue that. And then when COVID happened, I'm like, oh, I can't continue that. I was like, or maybe I can. So I just wanted to find, like I said, everyone has their own experience. So I'm like, let's pick what we're going to talk about. So Tinashe might have been my first one. And I remember I had texted her and I asked, and I'm like, what do you want to talk about? Like, what? And then she's like, oh, we should talk about dealing with the negative emotions during quarantine. I'm like, perfect. Like, that's perfect. So what I would do in my pitch is I would do research on, you know, whatever it is they're promoting, or maybe something like they've opened up about, send them topics to pick from, or they would give me one. And like, that's how that came about. And I started it by asking my questions, and then I would open it up to fans so that they can ask their questions. So it was like people could really be involved in the interview. And again, even though it was a pandemic, I'm like, we need some kind of inspiration. Like, we're all going fucking crazy. Like, you know, so that's where that came from. And it's funny because I wanted to expand Jen's Classroom into schools and universities now, because now that they're opening back up. So that's my plan for that. My biggest struggle with content is I come up with so many ideas, and then I'm like, okay, if I keep trying to do 100 ideas and I just don't focus on, you know, one of them or like a few of them, I'm like, it's never going to get to where it needs to be. I'm like, so I'm actually, you bringing up Jen's Classroom is just another like confirmation of like, go back and do that, because that's, you know, that's what people need. That's so big. Now I'm going to do that.
That's really big, I thought. And I was like, young person with ideas and execute.
Yeah.
I think in this day and age,
it's this.
It's that notebook.
It's my damn planner and all my notebooks.
So you still use a day planner?
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah, I use a day planner. Let me make sure I don't open. This is like the content calendar of, what is this, November? But see, yeah, no, everything's on there. Like color coordinated. I only use Staedtler pens. So if you ever need good pens, these are the best pens in the world. But yes. So my process is I write everything down. I gotta send you one of my notebooks. This one was the bootleg one I had, but I'm gonna send you one of my notebooks. So it's like I have like 300 notebooks just sitting in my outdoor storage. Cool. So I write everything down in my notebook. I write everything in my phone, and then I write it in my planner, and I save all my planners from all the years to make sure I don't forget anything. Because that's the thing, you're going to forget stuff if you try to keep it in here. So that's how I keep track of all my ideas and goals.
See, I think when I came back from Afghanistan, right? Yeah. I decided I wasn't writing shit else down. I was going to use Google Calendar for everything.
Yep. Hey, Google Calendar is great. I use that too.
That Google Suite just shorten, it helps. It helps me. So I get reminders and to do the tasks.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember to create a tickle folder anymore and go back to my index card thing.
Yeah.
I can't remember all of that stuff. So thank God for electronics. The technology is getting smarter. People aren't. So the fact that you use the old school notebooks is pretty freaking amazing.
I'm sending you a notebook. And then can you use it? What are you going to use it for? What are you going to write down specifically in that notebook?
What would I write down specifically in that notebook? Probably I would probably catalog my year's most interesting conversations.
Okay.
That's probably what I would do. And so that at the end of the year, when I do the end of the year recap for the Hype magazine, I can pull those together and do a recap issue.
You should. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, and I'll give you credit for it too, because
the notebooks. It's a 5x. Is it 5x7? Where is it? I want to pull the one I actually had. They're all outside, but it's like, I'm not gonna lie, my living room right now is super messy because I'm packing. So I'm like, I can't really stand up.
It's okay. I just moved into New Digs. You got my email.
Yeah.
Hit me. I'll send you my
address.
address.
I'm gonna send you one.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would love to have it. And I will definitely support anything that you got going on. I'm damn going to support, because I
appreciate that.
I grew up a victim of 9 sisters. And
older, younger, are you in the middle?
I'm in the middle.
Okay.
But
9 sisters?
9. Yeah. I'm sometimes amazed that I, lived through it.
I was going to say, I'm like, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Plus they're friends, you know what I mean? So I'm like surrounded constantly. And then strong mother, beautiful woman, amazing lady, rest in peace. She says, you got to go do something. So I went to the military to escape and became a victim of another kind, governmental victim. So I'll just say it that way. But I'm here to support you, because I just feel like you're the next wave. And our young people definitely need support, and your ideas are great. Amazing. That fucking Postmates shit was amazing to me.
I don't know why I never, like I said, I have a very, very interesting story that it's like, I don't know why I never talked about it except for that one time. I don't know if it's because no one really asked about it, but that's such a big thing that it's like, okay, after this drops, then I'll do a separate video telling the whole story of, you want to hear another thing about Postmates that this will blow your mind. I had to deliver, there was one, I was like, I'll do one more, but like, kids, you made a decent amount on Postmates, especially if they tipped you.
Okay.
There was one more order, and the name was just a very regular name. I'll just say the first name was Jane. I won't say what the first and the last name is, just in case this person still uses that.
Right.
I go to deliver, and it's like this nice ass house on a street that I didn't even know where it was. I don't even know what the food was. Janae Aiko answers the door.
Wow.
And I'm so like, I never met her or interviewed her, but I'm so thrown off because I'm like, oh shit. So like super nice. So I give her the food and I leave and I'm like, wow, I can't wait until the day I interview her. And I tell her like, this actually isn't our first interaction. Like I deliver Postmates. I won't tell people what your name is on Postmates because like, obviously you're not going to put your name, but that threw me off. And that was like, oh, wow, like, that's just a funny story. Like, just to tell later, like, well, I was doing Postmates. Like,
did you ever get an opportunity to interview her?
No, I have not yet. I have a great relationship with Def Jam, though. So I know that one day that time will come. And I am very excited to bring that point up because I think it'll throw her off.
I would like to be a fly on the wall when that comes out and just see
when that happens. Wow. When I do it, because I never drop my content right away. So I'm going to do it. And if you're not there, I'm going to get the footage, send you the clip, and I'll be like, here, this is what happened. I'll probably take forever like to drop this.
It's okay. Look, I do these. I'm just getting into this video thing, right?
Yeah.
So I normally just do audio pieces, but this video thing, I'm not a great editor. So guess what? This is not going to be like totally edited. I'm going to throw it.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
And we're going to be raw. I call it live sessions. We're going to do who is. Actually, this is going to be who is. But I think you're beyond the who is. I think that you're, because this interview turned into a conversation and we got a chance to really talk about some stuff. And I think
I like that you said conversation too. Like, I don't even look at my interviews as interviews. I'm like, no, we're going to talk because I'm going to talk about anything.
I love it. This is the kind of interaction I like to have. And I appreciate you for bringing so much value to the conversation and sharing it and pulling the veil away. So director of content at SkeeTV, Dash Radio. Radio. How did that come about? And I used to be there every freaking Saturday with my girl DJ Beans, who did Holla at Beans. And now she's on Jungle Rhythms, Native Rhythms. Native Rhythms, the night show on Friday nights. Yeah. So very familiar with Dash Radio. How long have you been there and what brought you to that platform?
Okay, again, back to my story. Like, it's crazy. So when I was with HotNewHipHop, I did, again, I come up with ideas and my problem is I do them, I execute them phenomenally. And then I go to my next idea, which I really need to stop doing. Like, stop. If you're watching this and you just constantly have ideas, just stop. Like, execute one idea at a time because you'll end up, if you try to do 100 things, none of it gets done. And then you're like right here when you could have, finished something. So I did a Welcome to My House series where I was like, oh, so I did it with The Game, Soulja Boy. Those are the first two I did. And then I wanted to do one with Ski, and I had reached out to his team, but we ended up doing it at the lodge. So you, at the time when you were at Dash, it was probably when we were on Cahuenga.
Okay.
So yes. I reached out. Yeah. So it's 2013. We did that interview. I got really close with his team and they're like, oh, we have the TV show on Access TV. And they're like, do you want to do like content there? I'm like, oh, actually, what if I do behind the scenes or I do some kind of interview on Hot New Hip Hop, but we promote the TV show. So then it's like cross promoting. So I started doing the interviews there before Ski would have them on the show. And I was the only person working for Hot New Hip Hop in the US. So they were based in Montreal. So I didn't have a team. I was just working from home. So me working from home is nothing because it's like, that's all all I would do.
Right.
And it turned into like, wait, we really love your content. Like, why don't you do this? So then they brought me on for Skit TV. So I was doing both. So I was creating content for the TV show. So that was 2013. So started with Skit TV. I was there 2013 until 2015 when I took the job with the multi-billionaire. Okay. But even when I was working with for live video, Ski and I always stayed in touch, and we would do random campaigns together, or if he needed talent for something to get, you know, other artists. So we never stopped working together. It's just I wasn't full time. So then 2015 to 2018, I came back 2018 on as a contractor because they needed help with talent booking for Dash Radio. So I was on the Skit TV side. I came on for talent booking. Then it turned into him saying like, wait, I've always needed a chief of staff. I didn't know what that was, like when he told me. So then he was like, would you be interested in that? So then I became his chief of staff from 2018 until 2020. That was a lot. Like that was, you know, that was a lot too. Love the opportunity, learned so much. Like Ski is the person that I swear, Ski told me about COVID before I swear the world knew about COVID, because he went to some like event in Miami. And I remember he said, hey, COVID, like, you know, they're talking about it, but the world's going to shut down. Make sure you get your groceries and all your essentials. And I thought he was crazy. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, all the schools are going to shut down. Everyone's going to work remote. So it's like Ski, for some reason, always finds out everything before everybody else finds out. Literally all the time. NFTs, the cards, like, it's just, I'm amazed because it's like, okay, look, you just always know like 6 months ahead of everybody else. So being his chief of staff was amazing to like learn from him. But it was too much as far as I'm like, it's, you know, being chief of staff, I'm like, you're running all aspects of the business and you're acting on his behalf so he could focus on, you know, our investments and like the financial side and the business side. So I took on a lot. And then finally, you know, I was like, all right, this is a lot. I think that I should focus on content. And then he agreed. So then I changed my role to director of content. I think it was the top of maybe like February of this year. Okay. So it's like, Ski's just always been somebody who has given me opportunities since 2013. And now it's about to be 2022. So it's like almost 10 years I've known him, and we've always just been able to work together. So that's how that came about. And it's funny because it's like on the Dash side, you know, even though we changed my role, it's like, it's still like the day to day. Like I know the ins and outs. It's the most, you know, it's like every aspect of it. So, I mean, he just always trusted me with everything. And I'm forever going to be grateful for the fact that he even put me in the rooms with certain people or introduced me or would have me lead projects with people that it's like, these are important people. Like you know how important relationships are. You don't just introduce anybody to anybody, but it's like, there was no one that he didn't introduce me to. So I really learned a lot on the business end because of that role. And, you know, I'm just applying it now and now focus on like the content and the talent side. We have a new space in Hollywood. So next time you're in LA, you definitely have to come see it.
On Sunset, right?
No, on Hollywood Boulevard. So it's on between Hollywood and Cahuenga and Hollywood and Vine. Do you remember where the Popeyes was and like Drip?
I've been to the new facility. I just left.
Oh, you have? Oh, okay.
I just left LA. When did I leave? What is this? 21? Like 2019.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's
also you saw it when it was still like under construction.
Yeah.
Like super under construction.
Super under construction. Yeah. So and we were in the downs, on the first floor studios.
Yeah. The one in the window?
The one in the window.
Right. Yeah. Okay, well then you've seen it. So we're there now.
Yeah. It was great experience to learn, you know, behind beings and whatnot, and to see the inner workings of that. What's been the biggest surprise of the business side of the industry for you?
Oh,
don't put nobody on blast now.
No, I won't put anyone on blast. So, I mean, after the whole unemployment and then just, I even worked for an agency for a little bit. So it was Adler Music Group. That's who I worked for. And that's actually in my deck that you saw, like for the talent booking for Lil Wayne for Float Festival. That was because the agency had that festival as a client and they wanted Lil Wayne. So that was my first like booking. And the biggest thing I realized was these artists make a shitload of money. Man. And it's like, I offered, okay, so I had a little Google sheet that kept track of it. I offered about $5 million worth of opportunities to artists. So whether it was to do a 60-minute, set, a campaign for like socials, but it's like for those shows, when you think you're offering somebody like high six figures for like a 45-minute set, and they're like, no, too low. I'm like for 40, and it's like, I get it. And that's what I learned the most, even just with any kind of promotion from an artist. It's like the value that they have, they will really turn down money. Like, because it's like, look, and as a agent that brings something in, you get 10% of whatever you book. Right. And of course, when I kept getting declined for offers just because there wasn't enough money, I was like, damn, like that would have been like a really nice check. But then, so even now it's like, I'm working on some campaigns where there's clients who want certain artists, and they get shocked when I say, 150,000 isn't enough for a walkthrough and a meet and greet for this artist. Like, and I get a deal, like sometimes just because of the relationship. Right. So it's like, I realize like, damn, like they get paid a lot, and they really do say no to a lot. So that was a big wake up call. And also, I mean, the industry is just very, very small. Like I realize everyone knows everybody, and it's like, and if you have a bad reputation, everyone's going to know you have a bad reputation. So.
When they say small world, the entertainment industry is that
tiny, like it is so tiny,
minuscule. And you will screw with somebody that could be in Connecticut, and it will get to Los Angeles, New York, and Atlanta. It will. And
it's such because, think about how many people try to get into the music industry. So whether it's, writing on camera, management, publicist, I don't know, stylist, like there's so many different, or an actual artist, like songwriter, there's the music industry. It's like people want to be in it, but it's like only a very few survive, because it's like, it is a very cutthroat industry. So it's like, if you don't have the skin to be able to deal with that aspect of it. And also like, you really have to protect your relationships, because it's like, yes, everybody talks. And I am so, I've had a few instances where people are like, why, it's not a big deal. Like if it's not done on time, or I've had those conversations, and I'm like, but it is, because the reason I'm getting a response is because of how I work. So if you mess it up, it's on me, and then my relationships are ruined. So it's like, I'm a huge protector. I will never like introduce anyone or, pitch something unless I know it's a legit, it's legit. Like it's actually something's going to come out of it.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I've been doing this since, I retired from the military. I started in 2012.
2012, okay.
And I've learned since 2012 that you work very hard for the relationships. Trust is not an easy thing to come by, and you just flat out don't recommend shit to anybody.
You don't,
unless you are 1,000,000%
confident
that this is going to rock. Because people will start to look at you and like, you're bringing me stuff that never comes to fruition.
Exactly. And then you don't get answers anymore. So I'm like, I definitely had and I've had moments where it's like, oh, like, why is it so much? Or like, why can't you follow up? Like, again, like, because I said I wasn't going to follow up until a week from now, or like 2 weeks from now. So I'm not going to bother them. But then it's also like, okay, well, then you do it. Like, there's a reason why there's success on this side. But that's the thing. I've always been respectful of relationships, people's time. Like, I don't even like, people ask me for advice, like, how do you stand out when you reach out for something? I'm like, well, first, like, you got to put actual effort into what it is you're sending. You can't just copy and paste and send it off to like 100 people. That's even with you. Like, I made sure I did my research. I'm like, what, why would why would he want to talk to me? Like, does it even fit? If I know it's not going to fit, I'm not even going to say anything. And then again, the follow-up, I apologize for fun, because it's like, I don't like bothering people, but I'm like, he does also get a lot of emails. But in my message to you, I said, look, if you got it, it's cool. Because I ignore people. Like, I ignore it where I'm like, like, I don't want to deal with this. I have other stuff. And that's why I said, this will be the last time I said something, just in case. I'm like, because I don't like pushy either, like with stuff. So it's like, you got to be careful, like with people and how you approach them.
I like the discreet follow-ups, the gentle reminders and things like that, because like I told you in DM, I get about 200 emails a day, 200 pitches a day. Yeah, my inbox is literally at 4,600 right now. There's nothing I can do. I'm doing the best that I can. So I have to pick and choose. And most editors are probably like this. I just happen to be the editor-in-chief, but I also do the most of the interviews. So
you're busy.
I'm busy. I'm busy, and I have to pick and choose. So I'm really glad and honored that you felt we were important enough to follow up. You know what I mean?
How do you sort through I like that you said I like the discreet follow-up. So like, what's like one of the worst follow-ups you've gotten where it's like,
well, I am working on a piece. The worst follow-up I get is the label is pressuring me for answers as to when you're going to publish this piece. That's like the worst follow-up. Like, first of all, I really don't care which label it is. And it's a major freaking label.
Yeah.
And it's a major PR house. I'm like, are you guys just punks or what? You got to tell them, look, the guy controls his editorial calendar. He's going to publish it when it's best for the magazine, for the outlet, not when it's best necessarily for the label. You know what I mean? If you want me to be according to your schedule, then bring some of that marketing budget over here.
Exactly. Like,
then I will say, look, okay, fine. You're doing a rollout. We're a part of that rollout, and you're spending 50 grand with me. Then guess what? Your freaking cover and the editorial will be done in a time that helps you out.
Exactly.
But no. So that's, I think that's been my biggest challenge, is like getting them to understand that we pay for everything on our own. We take in sponsored content. We don't have a lot of advertisers. But these people have $1 million budget and they have a rollout. You come to me for something free, like, I'm going to put this out here. GQ sends me their freaking covers to aggregate their shit.
Oh, wow.
But not once has Condé Nast sent me a marketing check.
Oh, wow. And it's like, and that's what I'm saying. That's my other thing too. These are one of my rants. I told you my content's all over the place. Some days I'm in a good mood. Some days I want to talk shit. So like one of the videos I have is about how I don't understand trying to ask for a favor, knowing you're getting a check, and then not offering that check or part of it to the person who's going to help you get that check.
Thank you.
So it's like,
hello. We got to go. No, I have to have you back because we're going to have a shit talking session.
Whenever. Yeah, whenever.
We're going to have a shit talking session. We're going to do it. I don't know what we're going to call that, but Jen and I are going to do a segment where we're just going to lay it out on the line, our negative experiences, and how we've overcome them, and what the hell you should be doing
and not doing.
And not doing. And we're going to do that. And I'd be glad. I appreciate the fact that, you indulge me. This is supposed to be a conversation that, exposes you and who you are. And you're letting me get my little tidbits into. I'm sorry.
And that's the thing. That's part of who I am. A part of me is talking to other people, and they get to open up about things that, that they don't get to talk about all the time.
Well, you've got a friend here at the Hype Magazine. You're definitely welcome to come back anytime. I would like to schedule you again at the top of the year.
I would love to.
Okay, let's do that.
And anything you need, like, as far as like, I know that you said that before you were doing something with Dash before. So right now we're not doing any more talk shows because we got rid of our talk stations, but it's like, we're always top of the year, we're bringing back more like music shows, but it's like, you obviously know about the music industry, great interview, great like content. So it's like, if there's anything I can help you with as far as for content or for, you know, more interviews or connecting you with different people. Like, I really enjoyed this interview. I'm never the one who gets interviewed. So it's funny because it's like, oh, this is weird, where I'm like, I've never been asked that. And it's like, I can't prep for that. I'm like, who knows what someone's going to ask me. So I really appreciate this because I never knew what someone would ask. And like I said, those little things from bringing up Jen's classroom or like my youth, it's sometimes you get in your own head and you're like, oh, am I on the right path? What do people see when they see me? Cause you only see it through like your lens. So it's like, not complete stranger, but it's like, yeah, we've never met. And it's like, that made me feel good and inspired me where I'm like, I got to go record more content and just talk about all these different things I talked about.
Was there anything you wanted? I've had you on here for a little over an hour. I appreciate that time.
Sorry, I talk so much.
No, I know that you're a busy person. Is there anything you wanted to cover that I may have neglected?
No, I think you covered everything. You covered way more. Like, I was like, oh, I don't know what to expect. I'm like, I feel like I shared everything. And again, if people want to know more about my story or they want advice on something or they want me to speak on anything, like, let me know, because that's my goal now is really to focus on my content. I was never consistent, and it's like focusing on content in a way where it's like, I have so much to say. So I need to let that all out. So even if you ever have any videos that you'd like to hear my thoughts on, like, let me know and I'll do them.
Oh, that would be dope. That would be dope.
Yeah.
I love it. Budding friendship here is coming long distance. I really appreciate you. Much respect for your intestinal fortitude and sticking with it and not being afraid to follow your dream. You know, that leap of faith has made a big difference. And you're actually contributing to the fabric of the entertainment industry and the media industry. So, you know, not just taking away. And I really appreciate that as an old.
I appreciate you too. And I'm going to send you my notebook. So send me your address and then I'm going to send it over to you.
Awesome.
Yeah. Now I appreciate this so much. And I'm not going to reach out and be if the label's pressuring me, but whenever it does come out, I will make sure to share it on all my socials and everything.
Speaking of socials, let's let them know how to get in contact with you.
So everything is just Jen _DeLeon, DELEON. Everyone's like, how do you spell your last name? And that's all it is.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Great. Have a great night, just in case, because whenever this drops, we won't date it. And thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know you're super busy and you didn't have to do it.
I appreciate the opportunity, and I really appreciate you following up. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right.
Bye.